STEM Club, Not Your Mama's Bread. Today we are going to do an experiment trying to figure out how Neolithic or cave people made bread. You should have already picked up your take-and-make bag with everything in it that you'll need to do this experiment, and then we will end up with something like this when we're done. Let's have fun. In your take-and-make bag, you're going to find 2 rocks. Each bag's rocks are a little bit different size, but that's okay. You'll find a baggie full of wheat berries, a tin pie plate, some flour, some modern day flour, and some honey sticks. Some other things that you will need for this experiment from home are some scissors to cut the honey sticks, a bowl to mix our bread in, and a spoon to do that. You will also need a little bit of water. And what we will do to get started is we're going to actually try to grind the wheat berries. And the part of this experiment for that is to think about how the cavemen or the people in the Neolithic era had to prepare some of their food. They didn't have the tools like we have now. They didn't have blenders or food processors. They didn't have ovens that plug into a wall. They did, however, have wheat, and they harvested the wheat by hand. And then what they did to get the wheat small enough to make edible bread is they would take these wheat berries and they would take a flat rock. So in your bag, hopefully one of your rocks is a little flatter than others, and take some of the wheat berries, and we're just going to experiment to see what the early Neolithic people had to go through to get wheat to actually make some bread. So just take and put some of your wheat berries on the flat side of one of your rocks on the bottom, and then take the other one and find the flattest spot on that rock, and then take and try to grind it up. You might have to bang it and see what kind of effort it takes to smash that wheat berry into small enough pieces to make some actual wheat like this for baking. So after all that banging, I've still got some pretty good size pieces here. They also used some equipment called a mortar and pestle, which is similar to this. It's like a solid, probably in those days it might have been stone, probably not clay, and it was a bowl, and then they would take another solid piece. It was about this long probably, depending on the size that they could find, maybe another rock, and in the bowl they would just bang like this in order to grind their food. So again, just imagine the effort and the time it took to smash enough wheat berries to get enough brown wheat to make flour. So I'm still banging on the first little bit of wheat berries that I put on my rock, and this is all that I have. And they're still not small enough actually to come together to make enough quantity of flour to make bread. So I'm real glad that I live in this day and age where we can buy bread already, or excuse me, wheat already ground so that when I want to bake bread or anything else, I can get it ground up like this, and I don't have to take a rock and smash my wheat berries in order to get enough to make bread or cookies or a pie or anything like that. So I'd love to hear how long you work on smashing your wheat berries and how much you come up with. And then we'll move on to the next part of our experiment. So for the next part of our project today, we are going to make some bread similar to what they might have made during the Neolithic or Stone Age period. I can't imagine how long it would have taken us to smash enough wheat berries to get this amount of flour, but that's how they had to do it back in the day. And so they would have taken a bowl. Mine is a Tupperware piece. They didn't have Tupperware back then. They had clay bowls that they had to make from clay. And so we're gonna take the flour from our bag and we're going to dump that into our bowl. And then we're going to take a little bit of honey, because there was honey available back in those times. I was doing a little bit of reading about honey, and in some places they had to climb the sides of mountains or really steep hills to get to places where they could gather some honey, but they did have honey, and we're gonna add that into our bread for a little bit of sweetness. During that time, they also foraged for raspberries and wild strawberries. There were almonds and walnuts and that kind of thing that they foraged to put in their food. But I'm just gonna add one of my 2 honey sticks. I'm gonna save the other, and we'll put that over our bread when it's done, just to see how it's going to taste. Now this bread, when it's done, is not gonna be like your sandwich bread that you can buy from the grocery store, because it doesn't have any yeast in it. It's going to be really heavy or dense, kind of chewy. They didn't have yeast during this time, so they couldn't make the really light, fluffy bread that we enjoy now. So I've got my honey in there, and then I'm going to take and add, I've got about 3/4 of a cup of water here in my cup, but I'm not gonna put that all in at once. I'm just gonna put some in and stir it up and see what consistency I get. And if it's still too dry, then I'll add a little more water at a time. That looks pretty dry yet, so I'll add a little bit more. So I'm down to about 1/2 a cup. So I've put 1/4 of a cup in. It's still a little bit dry. Now, if you were making bread during that time, you could add some of those foraged items. You could add some strawberries or some nuts or something to add just a little more flavor to your bread. And I added just a little bit more flour. And what we want when we're doing this is for our flour to kind of pull away from the sides, the mixture to pull away from the sides, and for all the flour to be mixed in. And I think we're about there. I'll just keep mixing. They probably also kneaded the bread a little bit, and what kneading is taking it on a surface and pulling the sides and just punching it down. So similar to this, that would be kind of kneading, only you do that with the heel of your hand. And bread is going to be sticky. It's supposed to be sticky. I don't know if you can see how it's sticking to the bowl a little bit, but that's okay. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. So once we've got all the flour mixed in, and if you wanted to add any of those ingredients that we talked about, just to be very similar to the caveman bread, you could do that. You could even, if you wanted to go crazy, add some modern day ingredients like raisins or chocolate chips or anything like that, just to see what happens during your experiment. So once we get to this point, we're going to take our bread and to add another dimension to this, think about how the Neolithic people baked their bread. They didn't have an oven, so what they probably did is they probably got a big rock, flat rock, heated it in the fire, and then put their bread on that rock, and then just watched it until it looked done to them. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take and use an oven set at 375 degrees, and you'll probably need your parents or an older sibling to help you with that. But preheat it to 375, and then you're gonna take your dough ball and kind of flatten it out so that it's not as tall. And it will bake a little bit better this way, so it doesn't take forever to bake. Just kind of smush it out. And when you get it so you like it, if you want to sprinkle something on top, you could put some nuts if you're able to have nuts or anything like that. And get it about like that. And once your oven is preheated, pop it in there, bake it for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then take it out and do a taste test. Have fun. Thank you for joining us today for Virtual STEM Club Not Your Mama's Bread. I hope you had fun with this experiment and that it was successful and that you liked the taste of it when you were done. We'd love to see any pictures or video of you doing this experiment, and you can share them with us at the email address coming across the screen. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Bye.